So where do you look to do this when you're where are you looking at this that M&N heads to? Have you actually heard any
I'm very
feedback?
worried that it might not get its franchise, you know, resubscribed or whatever, renewed. And I think that's something that, you go through scary hurdles, and then all of a sudden when you think it's all fine, that's when things get taken away. That's how they rush through the Federal Reserve, They call it Federal Reserve. It's neither federal nor reserve. If they call it central bank, the people might have paid attention and not passed it.
You think
So I'm concerned about it. Yeah? Oh, okay. Okay.
do you think they're gonna take away the internet someday? And then what's
Okay,
your
here's
alternative?
here's something about the internet that I think people should take very seriously. If you cannot develop a gift a concept or modality, that you're giving something and not expecting anything in return, that means that those producing content, and right now content is king on the internet, and controversy creates a lot of traffic. But as Joe and I have discussed in some of our shows, to go through real controversy, not just fake controversy like Hannity and Combs, is probably faked with them. They've got an agenda that they're working towards, underneath. But Joe and I really have differences of opinion on no planes, on global warming, and it's a very painful process. But so I know we've got the content. I absolutely know that. But, we've also got to make a living. We've got to pay our rent. How are we going to do that? And my heart goes out to people who are paying $50 a month to get cable, but God knows I'm not taking one penny of that for cable. And on the internet, it's totally a gift so far there too. So unless I can get people to actually send in money for donations, it's, people can say go out and get a real job. And people have criticized me for that, to say don't listen to Paula because it's her truth, not yours, which I agree with. You should make it your truth. And another thing that's problematic with her, she doesn't do anything else. So people can be suspicious. Maybe I'm a CIA front, whatever. And, I can understand their suspicions. But I am going to be working at a hat shop, but I'm going to be making that work too, because I love being with people and I love collecting what's really happening.
Sure. So I just got one more question, I guess. So when you start with the show and stuff, do you get into the zone? I know a lot of people in sports, like when they start playing, they start hitting some shots, they start getting into the zone. Is that happening for you, I guess? Like
There's absolutely no question about the zone, particularly in the Express studio. If I was going to do an edgy topic, I would prepare for it. It's like something you feel for weeks, and then you sort of take a risk, and you always tell yourself, well, I don't have to play it, I don't have to post it. But in all cases, when you take the risk and you go the distance, you usually have a product that you're so pleased with. And it is like a higher intelligence takes over. And then with the viewers, or when I had the call-ins, they keep you honest. They keep you grounded. And I would tell my viewers, try it yourself. Go the distance, take a risk. Say at the dinner table or the breakfast table what you thought you couldn't say or would be misunderstood. Take a risk, try it. As long as in your heart you don't mean to hurt anybody. That's a very important criteria. If you bear no ill will towards anyone, I would say whatever's on your mind.
Sure.
Don't take it to your grave.
So, and you also work in the control room as well. Can you tell about that? The first time you've ever done it? Can you look back?
It's scary too. The control room. There's a lot of things to learn. You always are eager to get past so you can do it, and then you go, oh my God, here I am. What am I going to do? And you hang the talent up if you're not seamless in your abilities. So you can get nervous, but when you get it going, it's just as rewarding to be in the control room as to be in front of the camera. Is to help somebody else, to just sort of, it's like planting a seed and to sort of nourish a little, just that, to water and nourish a seed.
Yeah. Can you just talk about that again? I'm sorry because of the sound. Just about
It's like nourishing a seed. If somebody is maybe a new producer and they're nervous, but you have faith that it will be from the masses that the next step needs to be taken. And so it doesn't matter if they're talking about their love for Jesus, anything that they're talking about, they're a public access producer and they're making it happen.
Sure.
And you're helping them.
Do you think the truth about 9/11 will ever get out? you think? And if so, then how? Or I guess it's hard to say.
Well, I don't know the truth of 9/11. I think it's an ongoing process. Will people start to question the official version? I would say yes, it will get out, because I believe in taking that quantum step. It is definitely a quantum step. It's not just saying the official version is wrong, therefore now we have everything as it was, including our feelings and quality of interaction with people. By the time that happens, everything will change. Our behavior in the checkout stand will change. You know what I mean?
I guess the final question is, I guess you want to talk about, from all the interviews you've done, what is the most important thing that you've learned out of everything, everything from all the interviews, I guess, what would you say?
Of all the interviews that I've done, the most important thing I've learned, and the thing that humbles me the most, because I always look at my stuff after I've done it, and if I'm uncomfortable, I'll look at it more and more and more. And if I really like it, I'll look at it more to try to understand why I liked it or what more I want to do. But probably one of the most humbling things, embarrassing, even makes tears come to my eyes, is I see when I don't listen. I see somebody said something, and if I didn't have photographic evidence, if it wasn't on videotape, I never would have realized that I didn't pay attention. And that's what I would ask for any viewer, that if my work was worth looking at, is to consider that, because if it's happened to me, surely it must be happening to everyone else. And likewise, whatever is happening to everyone else surely must be important for me. And that importance is what I want in my work.
And one last question is, what needs to be done to make a positive change for the better? With individually, I guess, within people, I guess it's
listen to yourself. Listen to yourself and see how much you can handle. If you're getting cranky and paranoid and suspicious, angry, you're not listening to yourself. Those are signals that you have some unmet needs. And chill out and step back. And don't worry that you're going to let somebody down and that's exactly when the earth is going to fall apart, because it's not. Yes, your input is important, but it's your connected input. And in order to be connected, that's a process of extraordinary balance, not imbalance. You don't need a lot of hatred to fuel along your desire to impeach your leader. You need more balance and more energy to understand your connection to your leader.
Well, you're just talking about impeachment. You have all these. Do you think protesting does anything, or what's your opinion on it?
I think it's a moment-by-moment process. It's just like with Jean Klein, I mentioned in that earlier interview. When it came to the Holocaust, he never seemed to want to go to the museum, and it seemed so strange to us because we thought that was just sort of the good-hearted right thing to do. But it turns out that, when he was active in those times, he was, part of an underground railroad. So the important thing is what you're doing, and you'll know when you need to do it. When life calls upon you to do something that needs to be done, that only you can do, you're going to know it. And you're also going to know it when you don't do it. You're not going to feel so good.
Sure.
And then pretty soon there comes that balance where the not feeling good is more painful than going against social approval or maybe even danger. People said, ooh, it's so dangerous what you're doing. How could it be dangerous if you feel right with your soul? Because, after we lay down our bones in this one brief lifetime, what are we going to carry with us?
Sure.
And I think that's something we should think about often.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome.
And now I'm going to interview you.
There you go.
Are you all in the control room? And do we have another tape in? And I'm going to do an interview, finally, with Scott. I get to ask the questions. There you go. Oh, Scott Goldberg's been doing a show called Dying for Change. And is this my camera? It's blinking on, but I don't see me in the monitor. Or is this how I look in the monitor? You want me to move over this? Okay, there. Oh, you want to roll as you're doing it? How many minutes do I have, control room? Let's have this be an interaction with the control room, too. Okay.
But this, are you
Here's
gonna
your
hold
mic. So can you talk to me in the... 17 minutes, okay. So, Scott, finally.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
I just want to tell my viewers of Farther Down the Rabbit Hole that this is Scott Goldberg, and I've had the great honor to have Scott follow me around for his documentary, and I finally got the courage to ask him about his name for the documentary. So can you explain to my viewers your documentary?
Sure.
Why it's called Dying for Change?
Yeah, it's Dying for Change is basically, you know, it's got many different reasons. I mean, we're dying for a change, or we're actually dying. You know, we have people going over to Iraq, and soon enough, I'm sure Iran, and people are continuously dying over there and overseas, and even here, you know, from drug wars and and just street fights. You know, there's just so much horrors in the streets, and it's pretty amazing that civilization has come to this. You know.
Right.
And we're also dying inside. Like, we want it so bad that we can taste it. You know, we want it so bad. But, you know, I think the most important thing is, if you want to make a change, know something that you're good at, and then go out and do it. And then I think that change will affect other people. Like a documentary such as this, it's going to affect people to want to make a change. That's my goal, is so people say, wow, you know, I see what they're doing. That makes me want to do it. So
Right.
I think that's the most important thing.
No, I was, you know, because actually at 28 years old, I had an experience of physical immortality.
Wow.
And it's so difficult to talk about in this society. I was on a long meditation course, and what I saw was that the cells were immortal, you know. And I know that modern science has its models too. But generally speaking, coming home to this society and being barraged by advertising and things, it seemed like it stimulated chronic anxiety. I was so frightened on waking up in the morning that I hated to go to sleep. But it gave me a model in my mind that nobody could shake, absolutely nobody. So I thought, I didn't know if I wanted to give so much energy to a documentary called Dying. But yesterday when you explained it as you did, dying inside, it's like something is so unacceptable, and that the hope and the vision of what our souls have, we want to achieve it so much that even death becomes acceptable. Because prior to this experience, it was a huge amount of sacrifice that I'd gone through, you know, in the spiritual practice that I was doing. Now, granted, I was sort of in my physical prime at 28 years old, so I think the things change as you get older. But I just remember what that vitality of youth was. How old are you?
25.
Yeah, 25. So you're really coming into your prime, and if you can maintain these high visions, there's just nothing you can't achieve. Sure. I'm wanting to say, like a good mother, you don't have to die, you know, but I also see the depth of that, the depth of your title.
Sure.
And I really wish you well.
I appreciate it. You know, I just think it's so important right now, while we have the opportunity to make a difference, to make a change, and you know, like We Are Change is doing, they're doing things, you know, that they believe in, is making a change for them. And then you have people such as yourself who's doing Farther Down the Rabbit Hole, you know, a show here at MNN, and you know, Harold Channer and many others. And it's so important that we have, you know, people doing these things, because you know, if we weren't doing it, then maybe we wouldn't be giving other people the idea, hey, wow, maybe I should do that, or maybe I can follow in someone's footsteps and make a difference by doing, you know, something similar to what they're doing, not copying them, but doing something on our own right, and what we feel is most important to us.
Right, taking a risk.
Of course.
You know, because people say, why are you doing that? You know, what a strange thing to do. Another thing that I love about working with you, Scott, is that you came over to Harold's when I was live streaming with him, because I've had so much problems with my website and stuff. And to have your generation join us, and to feel, you know, the hope that it gave me and Harold, that people are listening who are younger and are caring, it was priceless, really.
Well, I appreciate it. I mean, it's so important to document everything, because everything's just gonna go away. You know, right now this is happening. It's never gonna happen again. This moment, you know, and many other moments. All these rallies and anti-war protests and things that people are doing, confrontations like We Are Change is doing with, you know, these politicians. You're never gonna get that moment back.
Right.
So it's always important to be in the moment and be there for it. And that's why I think it's so interesting, because no one else is ever, if you're the only camera person, no one else is ever going to capture that moment. I mean, thank God we got these cameras and I'm shooting this at the same time. But normally you just don't have the moment, you know, a lot of people just documenting. And that's why I think it's very crucial, because then you have also a lot of cameras that are being placed on buildings in New York City, and they're watching everything that you're doing. And, you know, every single day it comes closer and closer to a police state, unfortunately. You know?
Except, you know, underneath behind those cameras is a human being making a decision.
Of course.
And I've often felt that I have a lot of hidden protection and support. People who I don't even know are helping me in unseen ways. And I'm sure people I don't even know, you know, wish I would, you know, take a hike. Yeah. But I don't think that we have to be afraid of the machines and the cameras. And I think it encourages us to be more transparent. Once I heard that the reason the government was wiretapping everybody was because they were behind the curve, and that the Israeli Mossad had already hacked into every telephone number in the country. And I figured, what the heck? And I started putting my home phone number out on YouTube. And the more I would start to take those steps of transparency, the stronger and more confident and more connected and more balanced I felt. I might be having an exchange with someone on the internet where somebody's kind of nasty and cranky. And sometimes I lose patience, or I just don't have enough time, because it takes sometimes a couple hours a day to go through all the comments. But I feel there might be that one comment where someone is sincerely scared or worried. And if I put out scary information, I should be there for them, so I answer them. So one guy was really bothering me. I have to say, it's not like I'm some saint and this is not bothering me. And I said, just give me a call. I gave him my telephone number. The person was so blown away that I cared enough to give him my personal home number, that he emails back on YouTube, and he goes, gee, you know, I really wish I could call you, but I'm in the Arctic Circle. But just that gesture made him drop into a place of greater respect. And then I respected him more too.
Sure. I can see that. I mean, people look at someone and they don't really interact, because you got YouTube and you have someone on screen and maybe they might not agree totally with what you're saying, but then, you know, they want to like just be funny or something, and they'll contact you and say something, and they don't expect you to reply back with such a positive response, you know, or something that, you know, that you're not attacking them, and they're like, whoa, what's going on here? So I think then they say, well, okay, well, this person, wow, maybe I should tone it down because this person's human. You know, I think a lot of people look at people's YouTube videos and they think, you know, wow, you know, this person is putting themselves out there, or they must be so and so or this, but until they interact one-on-one, I think it's a totally different experience. You know, because then they get you know, you write something very nice to them and they're like, whoa, okay, oh wow, I'm sorry I made a mistake. I think that's what it is.
Sometimes I don't write nice things.
Oh,
you know, I can be, I mean, I try to sort of, I don't try to be mean by any means, but you know, sometimes I want to be strong, because I feel maybe they're taking it superficially, or I want to look at it more deeply. And I want to, and if I'm mean or if I'm strong, I do purposely want to provoke, because I want to see if we can take it deeper, go even farther on it. And then for those, I think there's a lot of people who are shy, and if they do muster up the courage to leave a comment, even if I don't agree with it, I always thank them for stopping by, because you figure every comment that somebody leaves, probably many other people are thinking the same thing, and they've really done you a service to call that to your attention.
I can see that. I definitely see that.
Yeah. When is your film going to be out?
I don't know. I mean, a good friend of mine, Chris Garitano, I had told him that I was cutting the We Are Change segment, and he's like, no, man, you can't. You have to get as much footage you can, and then, you know, kind of like log it down in a notebook, what you really need to get, what you need next, and figure out how you want the story to come about, but not edit it yet. So my problem was that, you know, I was started a documentary back in June. I wanted to get it out so quickly, but as I realized as I went more and more along, it's like, you know, this is a documentary. It's going to take a year or two. You know, I'm covering something, and there needs to be there's time. You know, there's so much things to cover. You got health awareness. You got human rights, animal rights.
Right.
You know, political stuff, environmental. So there's so much to cover. You know, and I'd like to document you for the next, you know, year or so, you know, or whatever, you know, whatever it takes that I feel. Yeah.
There's so much changing. I mean, even We Are Change, when you started the documenting them,
Sure.
they were only one group.
Yep.
There's now 30 chapters.
I know.
You know, I talked to Tom Foti, people they don't even know are just proclaiming themselves We Are Change, and then they're taking their little handy cam and running down and covering an event. It's very exciting.
And I think there's also a mixture of how people perceive them as well. Some people say, yes, that's awesome. And there's other people that say, well, these are just people that are just doing things on their own time, got nothing better to do, kids in college. I've heard that from a couple of people. But I've also heard people say, well, you know, these people are doing something because they're making a change. I mean, you could see it, I think you could see it both ways, but at least they're doing something and getting out on the streets and trying to make a change for a good cause. I mean, they got that chart where they're trying to, you know, write off every single politician. If you look on their website, you know, I think it's called the scum chart or something, where, like, you know, they cross out the faces and stuff of people who they've confronted. So, you know, God bless them, because they're doing something, you know, and the average person, I think there's also a way that people look at people who are doing nothing, who are sitting at home. It's usually that we think that they are the people who watch American Idol, or the people who are eating McDonald's and stuff, and fat and lazy. I think there's some truth to that, but there's also a lot of people who just don't care. There are people who just decide that they want to live their life that way, you know, the way that they want to live, and they don't want to hear it. So I think you got a mixture of that and a mixture of people who are more open to listening to what other people have to say. So,
I think from a survival point of view, to not want to listen isn't so good, because eventually it creeps up on you.
Sure.
Either your mortgage goes up, or a kid has to go off to Iraq, you know. But, you know, you can do little things like put a hat on. This hat that Joe Friendly designed for me, and you can get these at the Village Scandal, by the way, where I work. I have gotten so many wonderful comments from people, and most recently, a lady who lost her son in 9/11 in Philadelphia. I could see that Molly was not 1,000% comfortable with me decorating myself with this all the time, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it. Yeah. So it can be a little thing like that.
I think anything that makes people think is very important, you know, because we live in a society now where we're so dumbed down by television and so many things, and everything's thrown us off of what we really should be paying attention to. I mean, I think every country has had false flag terrorist attacks at some point. You know, Israel, United States, you know, all these countries abroad. And the interesting thing was when I was talking to my friend Chris, he kind of put me through a test, in a sense, because there's so much that I've read up on 9/11. There's so much that I've read up about the Council of Foreign Relations and all these, you know, interesting things that, you know, the news media will say that it's conspiracy theory. But so I think what's so important is that you research everything. Because let's say I had a screening for the film, and someone asked me a question, and I talked about something I really didn't know about. It would kind of be like, then they'd ask me a question, and I'd say, oh, I really don't know. So I think the thing for me to do is to research as much as I can and know every single topic. Otherwise, I just look like an idiot.
Right, and especially when you're a film producer, especially because people don't read. So you're going to be the final stop for a lot of people.
Sure.
That's a huge responsibility.
Sure.
Joe, are you in the control room? Do you want to say anything while we have Scott here? You know, because to have Joe Friendly and Josh Walensky in the control room, who are other public access producers, it's a really great experience. And I love the shows where you have interaction between people in the back. But maybe
we're just rooting for you.
You're just rooting?
There you go.
Anything you want to ask Joe?
I mean, you know, if they feel like they got to say something, then, you know, they're more than welcome to say something, ask questions. If not, then that's fine as well. I'm sure if we keep on talking, maybe if they have a question they want to ask, then they can ask. Now also my question for you is that, what was the reason? You know, I know that your shows used to have the call-in segments.
Yeah.
Do you do that here? Have you done it here or not really?
No, part of the deal of getting a daily show was I
Sure.
couldn't have live call-in.
Okay.
And then I felt that what it does is it sort of, you know, pinches me along, prods me along to get more active,
Sure.
to create some kind of blog thing going on the internet. Because webcams isn't done by YouTube. So I should learn how to. I'm learning
Okay.
web skills.
Hey, you're always learning all the time, you know. Always learning.
How much time do we have in the control room? Because I thought we
I
had.
think 2 minutes.
Oh, 2 minutes. Okay. We think. What did you think when you heard me talking about this controlled effects, this article from
You know,
Air Force magazine?
I honestly don't know that much about what it is, so you'd have to elaborate a little bit more on it.
I
guess, if
know.
you can.
I mean, don't be apologetic. There's a reason you don't know that much, because they don't talk about
Sure.
it anywhere. I mean,
Yep.
the anti-war movement doesn't talk about it. The 9/11 Truth movement doesn't talk about it. And yet, it appears that this article came in an Air Force magazine because there's some kind of bleed over with military people and industrial business people. So it looks as though they're trying to pitch people to invest in these products.
Sure.
Now you may say, oh, it's all pie in the sky, because people are ridiculed in the 9/11 Truth movement for believing these kind of things. But let me tell you, obviously, if it's a crazy thing to think about, then people are putting big bucks into crazy things.
Sure.
Now maybe people can be that crazy with their money, but I bet you anything they like to see some evidence of where their money's going.
Of course.
And I'd hate to think that you'd have something like 9/11 be some kind of showcase to sell some exotic weaponry.
Sure.
30 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I hear we have 30 seconds. So anyway, this is Paula, Gloria, and this is an excursion farther down the rabbit hole. I've been joined by Scott Goldberg, and Scott Goldberg is the producer, director, editor, creator of a documentary called Dying for Change. And this documentary will be out within a year or so.
Yeah, I think after the 2008 elections, probably around.
What a dramatic
around there.
time.
Right?
That's great. Well, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thanks.
Awesome.
Yeah. And thank you. Thank you guys for staying in the
Yeah,
control
thanks.
room. I think I got 4 shows.
There you go.
Isn't that
Well, we got to.
just great? I just got to go home and